Hi guys, here we are, part 2. We're going to wrap up this estimate here. We left off on part 1 in the headlights. Going down through here, you can see the different options that are included in the light assembly. There's, covers and bulbs and control modules and so on. But we don't really need any of that. We basically just need the housing. So moving on, we don't have fog lights in my car. Moving on in the hood section. We obviously need the hood. That was buckled up pretty good. The hinges looked okay in it, so we're going to skip that. We do need the front molding assembly. Need the latch. Need the latch cover. That's pretty much all we need in the hood section. Moving on down the line here. Cooling assembly. Here's where you can see in the pictures here. See how that radiator is kind of bananaed a little bit? Let's get a better shot there. There we go. Look at that sweet arch. So this tie bar, this upper tie bar here, this white piece, this is supposed to be basically straight across here. And we can see how far it's off. The radiator is bananaed because of it. Underneath this, in front of the radiator, is a condenser. That thing's obviously bananaed. So we've got to go ahead and take care of those things. So here we go with the radiator. On the right side, looks like the fan shroud is back into the fan pulleys and stuff for the block, the manifold. So let's go ahead. Actually, not the fan. We want the number 12 down here. There we go. We're going to go ahead and add the right side fan shroud. The reservoir or the cooling tank, we can see in a picture that that was kind of pushed back, and you can see how these mount tabs right here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, so this is supposed to be straight, and you can see right here where it's a little wider than the rest of it. This is stressed plastic, and on an insurance claim I would write to replace this. The reservoir doesn't have any holes or anything in it. It still holds fluid just fine. It's going to do its job just fine. And because it's my car, I'm not going to replace this actual unit. These stress marks in the plastic don't bother me at all. It's still good. It's still going to hold fluid. So for my particular car, I'm not going to replace it. But on an insurance job, if it was damaged in somebody else's car, I would write to replace that item. But we're going to go ahead and leave it on the estimate. Sometimes there's so many parts in a specific section of the car that to try to get all the parts diagrammed in one thing would be just too much of a jumbled mess. So they'll break it down into different screenshots. So if you see me kind of like clicking through over here on the left side, that's basically what I'm doing. It's just kind of force a habit on my side that instead of clicking these numbers, I just kind of click through the list of parts and see if there's an additional parts available for this section. Moving on down to the AC, we get to replace the condenser that I just replaced in my car like 3 months ago. That's now junk. That thing didn't live long. 430 bucks for a new condenser. You can see the system automatically kicks out evac and recharge book times to recover, and then recover the refrigerant is another step as well. Everything else was okay in it. So you got the heater core, the filters, the fans, additional lines and sensors. Moving on into the fender section. Let's see, we got the right fender was kind of rolled in a little bit by the right headlight. Let me see if we can. You can't, well, you see this gap right here. That's partially because this section of the fender was kind of rolled in. When this got pushed back, it pulled the inner structure in a little bit, which pulled the inside of this fender in. And you can see right there, the very tip of the fender is kind of bent downward right there. So we've got to repair this fender. So how we do that in this section is we pull up the fender. The right side's already highlighted. So we go to the repair option here. And that kicks up this little sub-screen where we can decide if we want to repair it, remove it, install it, align it, adjust it, whatever, however we want to write it, and then we got to figure out how much time we want to assign to that repair. In this case, it's going to take some skill to roll that fender back out without buckling it or screwing it up even more, and then we got to fix the tip of the fender. So I'm going to say 3 hours. That would be, I think, fair in this situation. Now, this screen kicks up if there's some other common things involved in painting that fender, like detrim. Like it's asked me if I want to detrim the right rocker, or R&I, remove and install the right rocker molding and the mud guard. I'm going to highlight both of those because we are going to have to take those off to paint that fender. So go ahead and hit OK, and it's going to throw those lines down here at the bottom for me. You got the fender, and then paint the fender, and then R&I and the rocker molding and the mud guard. Going on down to the front inner structure. This is the upper tie bar, the core support. So you saw in the picture that we obviously need this. And then if we go in, I have another picture that's after teardown right here. So this part here, since the brunt of it, the damage is on this side, this section here is kind of twisted a little bit. Let me see if I can get down. So here's that side support that you can see in this picture right here. That's what this is supposed to be, is this side support right here. And see how this circle is all distorted? This section is pushed back and this is all bent up. This is the right, or the left side, the driver's side, and you can see how it's a nice perfect circle. Everything's where it's supposed to be. So you can see the difference between these two. This section is kind of junk. This section's okay. So what we're going to do in this case is I'm going to write basically to replace the upper tie bar and both of these, because this is pulled a little bit but not a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write for a core support, because okay, so here it says, see this percentage down here we talk about in part 1, see how it's up to 70%, and it's flagged for a total loss. The estimate ACV threshold has been exceeded. Total loss. So yeah, okay, we've accepted that fact. So something like this, we want to pick our battles. So we can buy this part, and we can buy this part, and we can fix this part, and the tech's got to weld all this stuff together. Or we can buy the entire assembly, and the tech, this will come all welded together, all one piece. And the tech will basically drill out the pinch welds down on the lower tie bar and take this section and chuck it. Don't need it. And then he would weld, he would cut out the old stuff and then weld this whole new piece in. So it would take him less time to get rid of this piece than it will to weld this stuff together and fix this. So that's why I'm doing it this way in this particular scenario. Before he does that, actually, he's going to have to put this thing up on a frame rack, get some chains, and he's going to have to pull this tie bar back into place. Now, we're not using this tie bar. It's still going to be junk after he pulls it, but the reason we want to pull it is because it squares up everything else. Because the unibody, everything's welded to each other. When this thing's pushed back, it kind of pulls everything out of whack just a little bit, and that's why we had that roll in that fender down there. So what we're going to do is the tech's going to pull this back out. He's going to get a tram, and he's going to measure bolt distances from this back bolt to this bolt over here, and he's just going to do a couple cross references, make sure everything's square and even. And once he gets that thing lined up to where everything's matches, all the bolt patterns match up, then he's going to cut out this section and weld the new one in. The other benefit to that is if you were just cut this thing out and get the new piece ain't going to fit right because he didn't pull and square everything up. So that's how we're going to fix the inner structure. Now on the side section is the rails, the aprons, that kind of stuff. So you can see the frame rail here, here's the apron, here's the fender, upper fender reinforcements. Now in another picture I've got that isn't in this list of pictures that I've got on this thing for reference, the end of the frame rail here is bent just a little bit right about there. And the reason why is because, again, when this thing got hit, you can see this is that rebar or the front bumper reinforcement. When this got pushed in, it pulled this over, and this bolts up into the end of the frame rail. This right here is the end of the frame rail. So it kind of put a little hoopty on the end of the frame rail. So we've got to fix that. And again, to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on this. Click on the part. We're going to select the part we want. Now, if we were ordering a new frame rail, this would matter, but because we're just repairing it, it doesn't really matter so much. So we're going to go ahead and leave it repair. We're going to designate an hour to repair. Here's the refinish time. We're just going to put 0.2 because they're just going to spot refinish the end of the rail. The full hour is to paint the rail all the way back to the firewall, and to do that you got to pull the motor, and we're not doing that. It doesn't make any sense. And again, that's going to kick out on the bottom of the estimate there. There was no problems with the airbags. Moving on down the list here, nothing wrong with the suspension, the engine, all that was fine. But what we did need in addition is, where is it? I just saw it. Where'd it go? I needed seat belts. Oh, there it is. I'm right there. Okay, so seat belts on newer cars are tied into the safety restraint system, or the SRS system. There's a mechanism in here that senses the impact and basically blows this little module down here. Seat belts are a one-time use anymore. So if you ever get in a wreck or know someone that's been in a wreck, and you know the seat belt just kind of like, you know, limp spaghetti, it just hangs there and it won't retract, that's why. The seat belt's junk. It's a one-time use part, so we got to replace that. Mine was on the left side, ivory. You can pick the correct colors and stuff. That's pretty much it on my car. There are some other operations. Hazardous waste, we're going to have to set it up on the frame rack to do the pulls on that front structure, but because we're only doing sheet metal pull instead of a frame measure, we're going to go ahead and let the guys know that we're just doing a floor pull. So it just needs to be put up on the rack, tied down, so the car doesn't move around while he's pulling on the front structure. We got to tint the color. We got a mask for overspray because we're just painting the front end. We're not really painting the whole car, so if we don't mask the car, obviously it's going to get overspray all over the back end, and that's no good. Some other operations, we've paid the tech to set it up on the rack, but now we got to pay him to actually do the pulls. It's not going to take him very long, so we'll throw another hour at that. Something else though, additional refinish operations. My car is a 3-stage pearl. So here we have 3-stage. Kicks it down here, you see how it's 0. What this is going to do when I calculate it is it's going to calculate how many hours of 3-stage it should have compared to the amount of refinish hours we have. So here we go, we got 3-stage, it kicks out 4 hours. It updates the paint materials involved, and that's pretty much it. Now you can see it's 94%, $7,000 to fix my car, and that's with all OEM parts. So this is why my car was considered a total loss. Not because it wasn't beyond repair, it just didn't make any sense financially for the insurance company to do the repairs. So again, this is just to give you guys a basic understanding of how the estimates are calculated. This will give you an idea of if I were to actually print this out for a customer, this is what the pages would look like. You know, it's got the information, it's got all the options on there, and then a list, and then it would, you know, shows you the labor rates and stuff. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this part of it. Something a little different for you guys to see how it's done. Not many people get to see this side of it or how it's done. But yeah, this is why my car was a total loss. It just cost too much to fix based on what the book value is in the car, and sayonara sucker. So, but we're rebuilding it, and she's gonna move on. So anyway, again, I appreciate you guys' time and coming by and watching, and hope you enjoy the rest of the post. Thanks again.